All right. Hello, everyone. So this is going to be another quick video, relatively quick. Uh, this one is going to focus on some of the concepts of using Git. So Git is a powerful tool that allows us to be able to upload our code to a shared repository. In this case, we're going to use the example of GitHub. And once it's shared, you can, download the code from another location or work with other teammates and collaborate with the code so that multiple people can work on it on a single source of the code. Then you can use it to merge the changes together to look at what changes are actually valid. You can revert back to old changes. So we're going to get into the very basic information about using Git. It's available on all the different operating systems. In this case, I'm using my Windows device, but I'll also demonstrate how it can be used on Linux a little bit later as I created an AWS EC2 instance, a virtual machine running on AWS that's running Ubuntu, a Linux platform. And what I'm going to do is take some of the code from my video, Getting Started with Python, and upload it to a GitHub repository and then download it from there on the Linux box on AWS, and you'll see that it will work just the same. Most versions of Linux have Git installed automatically, so I won't necessarily go into the details of installing that. On Windows, it, at least in the last couple of versions of Windows I have had, did not come automatically, but you can just go to gitforwindows.org and you can get the simple tool which basically allows you to get what they call Git Bash, the Git GUI, and some shell integration all added in. The Git Bash basically presents a terminal that allows you to interact with it just like you would for using it on a Linux device. So that's primarily going to be the one we focus, but either way, even if you don't use the bash itself, you can still use the commands once the software is installed. So it's simple. Just go to that website, click download, it'll pop up, and then you just run the exe. Again, I already have it installed on my machine, so I'm going to skip that step for now. But if I go in here, you can see that if I type the keyword git and then -- version, you can see I already have Git version 2.10.1 Windows on my machine. So what you're seeing on the screen now, this is the sample code that was created during the Getting Started with Python video. Very basic explanation of some of the concepts of lists, dictionaries, opening files, writing the files, reading the files. So we're going to basically do the same thing with this, but then put it on a Linux device. So in this terminal window, I've actually already started a session with AWS. If you want the details on how to do that, I could always put together a video in the future on spinning up an AWS EC2 instance, but it's beyond the scope of this video. But if I go into this terminal, you can see I can use Linux commands like ls. The equivalent in Windows is dir. And I can make a new directory with, mkdir. And now if I do ls again, you can see I have that directory listed. And I can move into it with cd. Okay. So basically just demonstrating that I have a Linux device set up over here. The next thing we're going to do is actually go into GitHub. So GitHub is a great tool. It allows you to create all the different repositories you want. They can be private, they can be public. It's easy to create an account. I can actually sign out. You just go to github.com and you'll have the sign up option if you don't already have an account. If you do have an account, you can do sign in, which I do. There are different options for two-factor authentication to make sure it's secure. And you can see on this left side a bunch of the different repositories that I've already created. In this case, I'm just going to create a new repository, and I'll call this shared demo. It's going to be under your base repository. So if it has the same name as another repository that somebody else has, it doesn't matter, as long as you don't have a duplicate within your directory structure on GitHub. We can provide a description. Then you can make it public or private. Public, anybody on the internet can search for this, find it, and potentially contribute. Private, you have to manually go through and add access for other individuals. So in this case, I'll just do it for private for now. You can automatically add a README file. And then there's a couple of things with Git called the Git ignore. So it allows you to create a template here. In this case, we're going to be using Python code. So there's all these different templates for a Git ignore file, which what that does is it takes some common files that aren't necessarily directly related to your code. They might be support code that you don't, or admin code, or admin files, configuration that you don't want to upload to the repository, and it would automatically ignore them. So I'll just pick Python as our template. We can give it a license. MIT license is one of the most common used. Basically allows people to use the code freely, educational purposes. I can throw that if I want. And then you can also change what branch you want to use as your default. So main is a common one. Other ones you see is master. If you have a different version of code that you're creating, you might create a version 1.0 and a version 2.0 so you can work on stuff simultaneously without interacting with the two codes and overwriting it. But we'll just keep it as main for now. And then we'll go ahead and create the repository. And you can see it automatically added some files here already. It created an initial commit within it. It created a git ignore file that includes all the types of components that you want to ignore. You don't want, in this case, if you have a .so file, it'll ignore that and not add it to the repository. If you're doing a distribution or a package, it'll ignore a lot of the structure that is built automatically while doing that. In addition to the git ignore, again, it has the default license that we picked and the README file, which again, in this case, it's very basic, but you can go in and edit it and provide some more additional details. So now that we have this repository set up, we can actually go back to our code. And again, we already have Git installed. We're in our directory with the code, and we can just run a simple thing called Git, again, being the keyword to say we're going to use the Git program, init or initialize. So it automatically, you don't really see much that changed here, but in the background, it actually created a Git file, and it basically set this as the starting point for our Git repository. Now, from this point, it's not connected to anything. We've basically just created a local Git repository on our machine. What we want to do is to connect our local repository to the one we just created on GitHub. And the way we can do that is, again, using that git command, use another keyword, remote, add origin, so where exactly the repository is starting, and then we take the address of our repository here. So just go into Explorer, grab the web address, and then we can paste it in here. And in the background, we've now established a connection to that. Just to make sure we have everything there. So one thing that I want to do here is, again, we have a bunch of different files within our empty folder already. You can do this from an empty folder to reduce any type of possibility of overwriting stuff, or you can pool what we already have on the repository. So basically what it's going to do is it's going to grab all of these files here and pull them locally if we try to pull that down. Alternatively, we can use git and add with the file name. So in this case, we have demo.py, git add by file. All right, so we have those, and now we can git pull, which will pull down all the information about all branches within that repository. But the key thing here is we're still not technically attached to any particular branch. It's going to ask me to log in here. 1 second. It's this is because it's trying to use a Visual Studio Code extension. So what I'm going to do here real quick is on the GitHub page, if we go down to settings, this was a recent change in the last year about the different keys. So you go to developer settings, and then you need to create access tokens. So I can generate a brand new token. We can have it expire within a certain period of time. We can give it full control to everything we've wanted to. Or you can limit the access as applicable. Again, this one will probably be dangerous to give access to everybody, but so what it's going to do, it's going to generate a token that we can use, and we'll be able to have it for 30 days. I can even make it a little bit shorter, 7 days. I'm going to delete it at the end of this video anyways. And then generate the token. And it's created a brand new token, which is this one here. I'm going to copy that, and I'm just going to throw it in Notepad for now. All right, now let me cancel this. All right, so let me cancel that. All right, so what I'm going to do is to open up a command prompt. Again, we can, in this Git command prompt, we can see Git version to show that we still have access to it. The reason it was just having issues here is because it was trying to use the extension, which is not what I want to demonstrate in this video. It is an additional tool you can use for integrating Git within Visual Studio Code. But in this case, I'm just going to use the command line. And again, if I do a dir, we can see all of the different, let me go into the code demo. And you can see we have the 3 files. If we do a -a, nope. So if we do the dir/a, you can see we have that .git. Here we can see we have, again, the 3 files plus our hidden file. So this .git file was created when we did the git init command. All right, so now what we were doing previously is we were trying to do the We did git pull. Okay, so it's a little bit finicky with Windows, but so basically it failed with the username and password authentication. Um, but once it fails, it defaults to prompting you for the username and password. So once you have one of those access keys, you can just paste in the access key as the username, and then you could leave the password blank, or you can paste in the same thing again, and then from there it'll actually go through and connect effectively. All right, so now we did a git pull, but we also need to do a git checkout. -t is a command. You can use the help command to figure out what all the different commands do. Origin, and then remember our main branch name was called main. All right, so now if we do a dir, we can see we not only have our demo.py, our myfile.json, our test.txt, but it also pulled down the README, the git ignore, and the license that was already stored on GitHub. And if we go into Visual Studio Code, we should see that as well. Okay, so that's all great. So we did add some new files, but if we look at our repository, you can see that it doesn't have the files that we've added, even though we did a git add command. So what you need to do, in addition to adding the files you want to get tracked by GitHub, is use git commit. So command for that, again, start with git commit -m, which is the message you want to record. Oh, and of course I spelled commit wrong. Okay, so I added those ones. And now we can do a git push. Again, I'll go back to my repository here real quick. You still don't see any changes. But when I do git push, and then again, -u is basically for the username. So we're going to say origin and then main. And it should, okay, again, it's prompting us for the username. We're going to take the key and paste that. Password, we can do the same thing and paste the key. And let's see one here. Let me try it again. Okay. Not sure what happened that last time, but the second time it worked. And now we should see that those files have been added. And then the message, the -m we added was added initial files. So for those 3 files we added that were added a minute ago, you can see they're added there now. Now, what I'm going to do is go to my Linux machine, which again already has Git installed by default. And what I'm going to do is same process. I'm going to do a git init, initialize the repository. Okay. And just like before, we need to git remote add origin main. Oh, not main. We want to add our URL. All right. And then we need to git pull. All right. So yeah, I just had the typos associating origin with just main. So what I did is I removed that because of my typo, and then just went through and did the git remote add. Origin is the name for it, and then it'll reference this. And now we can do the git pull. Well, before I do that, I'll just again validate ls. There's nothing showing there. But if we do ls-a, we can see we have the .git initialization. Again, still nothing is showing. Oh, let me do that again. All right, again, so we do ls, there's nothing there. But if we do git checkout, there's t. Now we can see we have all the files here locally, and we can do the same thing and run our Python file. Oh. All right. Other stuff you can do. It'll be. I might put together some more advanced videos, but what it allows you to do is create new branches that, if you have multiple members of a team working on code, you can have them working on one part of the code and another part of the code at the same time. And then when they're ready, you can merge the code together back into the main branch or a different branch for testing. So a lot of times what you'll see is there'll be a main branch, which is all of the code that is used for a production environment. Then you may have another branch for development, a QA branch where everything is merged together for testing. You may have 5 or 6 different development branches working on their own individual components. Above that, you may have a branch where stuff is integrated together, and then again, everything pulled back together for the QA branch before it gets finally pushed to production. So hopefully this was beneficial in helping to understand some of the concepts of Git and how you can potentially use this for sharing code with others, or potentially how to take your code and move it from one computer to another easily, especially if you already have a Git installed on multiple computers. If you want some more advanced concepts, just feel free to let me know. Send me a message, shoot me a comment, and I'll go ahead and provide some more videos. Until next time, that's all I got.
Good news, everyone.
That's right. Good news, everyone. This is Doc here. You made it to the end of the video, which means you liked it. So please click on the thumbs up below the video. If you have any comments, anything else you'd like me to see put a video together for, leave a comment, ask any questions. And of course, more videos like this are coming, so be sure to subscribe.